32 teams in 32 days. Today, the Baltimore Ravens. You're watching the first episode of a series where we deep dive on every NFL team's offseason, previewing everything from the very beginning, when coaches are being hired, all the way to present day, with preseason happening, with one goal: to look ahead to the 2025 NFL season and see how every team will perform. Here's a list of videos that we're going to be dropping for 32 straight days from August 1st to September 1st. If you see a team that you're a fan of, 2, 3, 4 teams, I encourage you guys to hit that subscribe button. We do have to film a lot of this in advance. So this particular video, the Baltimore Ravens, is being filmed on July 24th. Let's start off with the coaching staff. The beloved John Harbaugh, who goes into his 18th season as the Ravens head coach. I believe out of the 17 seasons that he's coached the Ravens, he's been to the postseason 12 times. So very established, very successful coach. I don't know if there's a small niche of Ravens fans that call for his head and want him fired. I don't know. I'm not a Ravens fan, so I'm not on those threads or anything like that. Personally, outside looking in, I think he's very solid. I think he's a good foundation, and it's so hard to find guys like that. So I wouldn't say that he should be fired, but I'm not a Ravens fan, so I don't speak for that. We're not going to talk about John Harbaugh as much as we are going to talk about Todd Monken. Monken comes from a mentality where he wants to pass the ball more. Just the pro-style offense is what he's learned, what he's, I guess, grown up on. And it's helped Lamar immensely. Won the NFL MVP 2 years ago. You could argue that last year he should have been NFL MVP. Like 41 touchdowns to 4 interceptions, 41 passing touchdowns. You kidding me? Passing-wise, they've been great with Todd Monken. He has said that he wants to pass the ball more for the last 3 years. As long as he's been in Baltimore, he wants to pass the ball more. I think that's slightly going to happen this year a little bit more, just because the addition of DeAndre Hopkins, the emergence of Isaiah Likely, they want to feature them a little bit more. But it's not going to be anything crazy. There's still going to be a run-first offense. I have Lamar Jackson projected 490 passing attempts. So it's a slight increase, but it's nothing crazy. Free agency adds and losses, also trades as well. When you look at the additions of the Baltimore Ravens, it's nothing fancy. I mean, Jair Alexander is huge. June 9th, he was released by the Packers, added on June 18th. I think he's going to start right away. We'll talk about that when we talk about depth chart for the defense, but I have him on the outside, on the right side, Nate Wiggins on the left side, because Marlon Humphrey, I like Marlon Humphrey. I think he's great. I think Ravens fans can agree with me on this. There have been times where he has gotten beat, and I don't think that he's incapable of being a starting corner. I think he's very capable, but they just need some help. And Jair Alexander helps him out so much. So that's just one part of the secondary that they addressed, and it's been great. And this was after the draft as well, when they crushed it. The losses that they had, a bunch of defenders. Marcus Williams, who was, I guess, considered their starting safety, or Darius Washington worked in there as well. He's gone. Tre'Davious White, Brandon Stevens, who started for the cornerback for the Ravens here and there, he's gone as well. But they addressed the defense so much in the draft. Initially, the ads, the roster building that they did during free agency, it wasn't so much in free agency as it was with the draft. But let's look ahead at the draft picks that they had. First round, pick 27, Malachi Starks. They needed safety help. They lost Marcus Williams. Darius Washington started, yes, but they needed someone that's solidified, that's a foundation, that's a cornerstone outside of just Kyle Hamilton. And Starks, I feel like, is going to start right out the gate. He's going to be the starting free safety for the 2025 season. Then the second round pick, Mike Green, who talent-wise was discussed as being a top 15 pick. I'm a Falcons fan, so when I saw that clip of him at the Senior Bowl, at practice, dominating, I was like, I want this freaking guy. I want this guy right now. And I'm glad it worked out with Jalen Walker. But Green was talent-wise projected to be a top 15 pick. He fell because, you know, there's some things with his past, with the legal issues when he was at Virginia and other character issues as well. So that could cause him to fall. And the Baltimore Ravens, listen, if it doesn't work out, it's okay, because you already have an established outside linebacking crew or edge rushing crew. But if it does work out, holy crap, Eric DeCosta and the front office have so much flexibility on what they can do in the future if Green is a future starter. This year, he's not going to be starting. He's going to be more of a rotational player, and that's okay. I believe it's going to be a 3-4 defense, so he's going to be an outside linebacker filling in for Oweh or Van Noy when they need a breather at certain packages. But he can also put his hands in the dirt in a 4-3 package as well. Kyle Van Noy decides to retire. If Oweh in the contract in the future, it just doesn't work out, it gives them flexibility to trade some players as well. and have a cheaper deal with a rookie contract, a second-round rookie contract at that. Emory Jones Jr., they added some offensive line depth. I believe he's on the non-football injury list right now. We will talk about Tyler Loop when we talk about the special teams, because we do have to talk about the one of the beloved, maybe not anymore, but past beloved players in Baltimore Ravens history, and Justin Tucker. I'll leave your opinion on how you feel about him to you, but we'll talk about Tyler Loop when we talk about the depth chart when we get to special teams. But we are going to move on to depth chart right now and look at projected starters for the 2025 season. Starting with the quarterback, Lamar Jackson, guy under center. That's established. Nothing crazy there. Cooper Rush is going to be the backup. Then we move on to the skill position players. Derrick Henry, still project him to be a workhorse, probably about 305 carries this year. Zay Flowers and Rashad Bateman, I have them as a wide receiver 1 and the wide receiver 2. DeAndre Hopkins, that addition, it's great. But most of the time, I believe that they're going to run a 12 personnel. That means 1 running back, 2 tight ends, which means 2 wide receivers on the field. So Zay and Rashad would get the snaps most of the time. I believe 31% of the time last year, they ran at 12. If they run an 11 where you have 3 wide receivers on the field, then you move Zay over to the slot, and Hopkins is going to be on the outside alongside Bateman. Those 2 tight ends, Mark Andrews and Isaiah Likely, they want to feature them. And it's not going to be Isaiah Likely is going to overtake Mark Andrews for his job. I feel like Andrews is still going to be a key piece. On May 28th this year, John Harbaugh has stated that his goal is to get Isaiah Likely to have him become an all-pro. In a run-first offense with 3 great wide receivers, a starting tight end in Mark Andrews that's already great as well, it's going to be pretty difficult to get him to become an all-pro, but maybe in the future is what he was talking about. Maybe when Mark Andrews were to move on, because this is his last year with the team. There's also rumors about Mark Andrews being traded, that the asking price was a little bit too high. Then the offensive line, nothing crazy here. I mean, it's just the same old solidified offensive line. One of the best, if not the best, in my opinion, in the NFL. Moving on to the defense, we have the defensive line. I feel like this is going to be a 3-4 defense most of the time. So Matt BK, Travis Jones, Broderick Washingtons are going to be the big guys up front. But then you move on to the linebacking core. Like I mentioned, one of, if not the best linebacking core in the National Football League. Van Noy and Owe on the outside, then Trenton Simpson and Roquan Smith on the inside. And then I mentioned Mike Green is going to be relieving them in certain packages, and it's going to be a rotational player. And then the secondary, this is what I believe is going to push the Ravens over that hump, over the edge, to actually legitimately compete for a Super Bowl appearance. Nate Wiggins and Jair Alexander on the outside. Marlon Humphrey, you can see, is a depth piece that I have, the backup for each of them if either one of them were to get hurt. Humphrey could easily fill in. Could also be the nickel back in 3-3-5 packages. Great secondary, great corners that they have. Malachi Starks, like we mentioned, starting right out the gate. And then Kyle Hamilton, we know how great of a player he is. Special teams. The biggest piece that we have to talk about is the kicker. Football-wise, he's been a key piece for the Ravens. And moving on from him is it is a huge loss, and it is a big ask for Tyler Loop, even with the season that Justin Tucker had last year, which was the worst of his NFL career. They wanted to make sure that they had a kicker first, so they drafted him back in April. And then they, I guess, saw him in rookie minicamp and was like, okay, this is a pretty decent kicker. So we could move on from Justin Tucker. Maybe they found out some information that we don't know, and it's going to come to light later on. I don't know. That is going to be the biggest thing for the special teams is Tyler Loop. How well is he going to perform? Is it going to be better than the 73, 75, however much percent of field goals Justin Tucker made last year? Is he going to be much better than that? Can he be solidified, and can he be a solid piece for years to come? Now we look into stat projections for the quarterbacks, running backs, wide receivers, and tight ends. Starting with the quarterbacks, Lamar Jackson, 41 touchdowns to 4 interceptions. Listen, that is very, very tough to replicate. So we want to bring him down to earth just a little bit. Like I mentioned, Todd Monken wants to pass the ball a little bit more. So we gave him about 25, 30 more passing attempts than he usually gets. But it's not going to be anything crazy. So 33 touchdowns, 7 interceptions, which is still a very, very good season for a quarterback. To the running back, Derrick Henry, he's going to be the workhorse. 315 rushing attempts is what I have projected for him, which is a little bit more than that 295, 300, 305 range that I was talking about earlier in the video, but I wouldn't be surprised if that were to occur, that he has about 295, 300 carries this year. 1,600 yards versus 1,900 yards that he had last year. Again, just like Lamar Jackson, it's tough to replicate the season that Derrick Henry had last season. So instead of 5.9 yards per carry, we gave him 5.2. So it's still very, very, very good season by Derrick Henry, but let's bring it down to earth just a little bit. For the wide receivers, these 3 wide receivers are going to be the main guys: Zay Flowers, Rashad Bateman, and DeAndre Hopkins. On June 4th, Todd Monken said that they need to get Zay Flowers the ball more. Again, in this offense, it is hard to feature so many players. That's why we have DeAndre Hopkins not really having that big of a season, like only 58 targets. Like, think about the times that they're going to come into 11 personnel, when they're going to be down, when they're going to be passing the ball a lot more. It's so tough to get a third wide receiver to have a good season when you already have Zay Flowers, that Todd Monken wants to get the ball more. When you already have Isaiah Likely, that John Harbaugh has already said that he wants to make a future All-Pro. When you already have Derrick Henry, that's going to get the ball 305, 310 times a year. So we do have a slight increase in getting the ball to Zay Flowers more, 120 targets. Maybe some more rushing attempts. So the 10 rushing attempts is what we have projected, but that could go to 15. You know, the definition of getting him the ball more is very vague. Could mean a lot of things, but this is the season that we have projected for him. 81 receptions, 1,029 yards, and 5 receiving touchdowns for Bateman. 38 receptions. He's more of the deep threat at times. Receiving touchdowns, 6, versus DeAndre Hopkins, 35 receptions, 445 yards, and 4 receiving touchdowns. Moving on to the tight ends, Mark Andrews and Isaiah Likely. Mark Andrews, we believe, is going to be the starting tight end. We do believe that he's going to have a season that is very similar to the season that he had last year. 70 targets for 50 receptions, 595 yards, but he is going to be a red zone threat for those 7 receiving touchdowns. And it's not against Mark Andrews' talent. It's just the nature of the offense. Again, like, it's so hard to feature so many guys. Isaiah Likely is going to almost mimic close to what Mark Andrews has. 47 receptions on 68 targets, 555 yards, and 6 receiving touchdowns. I did mention the trade rumors earlier in the video for Mark Andrews, that they were kind of hearing teams out in the offseason what was going to happen, but the asking price for the Ravens, it was a little bit too high. Mid-season, by the trade deadline, could Mark Andrews be shipped? But this is the last year of Mark Andrews' contract anyway, so might as well get something out of it. And then to wrap up this video, we got record projections. Now, I did something a little bit different. I didn't want to just say, oh yeah, I expect the team to go 14-3, and then anything outside of that is wrong. I actually wanted to give a floor and a ceiling, like a range of this team to go somewhere between 10-7 to 16-1. What we expect is 14-3 for them to win the division, for them to make the postseason. But at the absolute worst, and this is dependent on games in their schedule, they have what I like to call swing games. Games that could go back and forth either way. Like, they face the Buffalo Bills, the Kansas City Chiefs, Los Angeles Rams, the Cincinnati Bengals have faced them twice. Those games could go either way. I don't think that they could win the division if they go 10-7, because later this month we're going to come out with the Cincinnati Bengals video, so you want to tune in for that. They're going to have a very good season. But if they go 10-7, we have the Bengals win the division, but they still make the postseason. But the ceiling is 16-1, winning the division and going to postseason. Now, why not just 17-0? Because division games are tough. Mike Tomlin, like, he plays the Ravens so tough, and the Bengals we expect to be a tough opponent as well. So with one of those teams, we expect to split. I don't know which one it's going to be, but either one of them. But we expect them to go 14-3. This is a division-winning team, a playoff team. Personally, I feel like this is a Super Bowl winning team. Potentially. I'm not trying to jinx anyone, but there's just absolutely no way that they got worse this year after this offseason. They had some holes on defense that they needed to fix, and even last year, their defense was not that bad. It was pretty decent. They just needed a few holes that they needed to fill in, a few tweaks that they needed to make, and they did that beautifully. This is good enough to make the Final Four, the conference championship, potentially the Super Bowl, and potentially win the Super Bowl. If I had to pick a favorite right now to win the Super Bowl, it's the Ravens. Thank you guys so much for watching this, Ravens fans. Make sure you guys subscribe to this channel as well so you guys can stay up to date when we come out with future videos and this 32-team series. Tomorrow, we're talking about the New Orleans Saints, and we have a special guest joining us in person, my buddy Sean Landry, who's a big Saints fan, and he's going to go deep dive on everything that's happening in the offseason. But thank you guys so much for watching this video, and I'll see you tomorrow.